Hello there, welcome to my bow making series. So, on this series, I'm going to be showing you how to make a bow using only natural resources. So, everything, the bow, stave, the cordage, the arrows, all of them are going to be made from natural things that I found in this beautiful forest. So in this episode, I'm going to specifically demonstrate how to make cordage for the bowstring. So, let's get to it. So for your bowstring, there are several options. Now you're mainly looking for things with very strong fibers. Sinew is probably going to be the strongest thing that you can find, naturally at least. That's the tendons of animals such as rabbits and deer. I don't have that accessible to me, so I'm going to have to resort to using tree bark. So that's mainly the bark of trees. This will make pretty fine bowstring, not as fine as sinew though, but definitely good enough. Lastly, we have plant fibers, such as stinging nettle. You may hear that they are very strong, which they are, but they are not sufficient for a bowstring. So I don't suggest using any plant fibers for a bowstring. So, different species of trees have different strengths of their inner bark. Now, what I mean by inner bark is, as we can see, this tree has this thick, scaly outer bark like so. If we scrape it away with a knife, we'll see a thin layer of the inner bark, which is the bark right underneath this outer bark. So, this is mainly what we're looking for. Now, the inner bark is super strong and flexible, but it does vary from tree to tree. Some trees will have extremely strong inner barks, and some trees will have extremely weak inner barks. So it's important to search up what species have the strongest inner fibers. Now, in my region, I know that basswood and willow have very strong inner barks. So, those are the trees that I'm going to be looking for. So, here I have a basswood tree. It's very, very easily distinguished. As we come closer, we can see that it's got this green, kind of grayish bark. It also has these big, heart-shaped leaves during the summer, which tend to be very, very easily spotted, especially from a far distance. Now, I'm thinking about taking one of the saplings up there, because as we can see, the tree is kind of lopsided, and it looks like it's going to uproot fairly soon. Make sure you also don't use the bark of any dead woods, because if you do, most likely it's going to be really bad quality. Unless it's recently died, then it will not be suitable for use. So here I'm in my backyard. I'm going to be taking out the fibers out of this basswood and then making cordage out of it. First thing to do is to break it in half. When you break it in half, the bark is kind of going to peel away like so, and you can just peel it away on both sides. Here I have pretty much the main wood, and we have the inner bark. This is the really tough part. That is very hard to break. This is the fibers that we're looking for. It's this very thin layer. With the knife, you can also try and pry underneath the woody area. Like so. try and get some of the fibers like here. These will get you some very nice fibers. This is a long process, especially to get a sufficient amount of fibers. You have to repeat this for a very long time. Here. Now, preferably, you'll want the fibers as long and as small as they can be. So if you're lazy and have a lot of patience, there's another way to get the inner fibers off. If you don't want to manually peel them hand by hand, take off just the outer bark and submerge it in water. Then, throughout the time of many months, the inner fibers will start peeling off. But as I said, it could take up to several months, and if you are going to do this, you have to do it in a hot area. So if it's cold outside, if it's snowing, then you're probably going to have to bring it either into your garage or your house, which is probably going to start stinking really, really badly. So this is the most time. So here's a past bowstring that I've made. This is for smaller draw weights. I'd say this is around 15 pounds. My bow is probably going to be a 30 to 35, so I will have to make a thicker and longer draw bowstring. So here you can see that sometimes you'll get an area where it just like peels off, right off like so. Right off the outer bark. This is the inner bark that we're looking for. Very thin and nice layer. And it just peels off like so. Really nicely. Peel away from the bark. These are the inner fibers. This is what we're after. So here are all the fibers that I have with the outer bark. So you can see that you can get a lot of fibers just from this one sapling. You can see that when you start, it's kind of tough, but later it just literally peels right off, like so. So the technique is you pretty much start off by breaking it, then you just pull down. Then here you're going to see the fibers. Some of them will remain on the bark, some of them will come off. Ones that do come off, make sure you have a bag nearby, so then you just place the fibers into the bag. On the bark, you'll notice some fibers that you can peel off with your fingers, like so. You'll see these fibers. So if they don't appear on the outer bark, they're probably stuck on the wood. So in that case, you grab a knife, and then you just look for the spots that look like they have an extra layer on them, and you just pry them away with a knife. Make sure it's right underneath the surface. Just do it as gently as you can, and just lightly skim it, and then you'll get a light flake, which you can later just pull to the very tip, like so. Another one, pull to the very tip. So make sure you're not getting any wood. You just want the outer layer of fibers. If you get a piece that comes off, that means you got some wood on it. That's not what you want to do.